Welcome back, everyone. If you want to grow as a game master or player and get all the latest tips and tricks, start now by bleeding out the subscribe button till it turns gray and lifeless. Now, on today's video, we are going to be discussing something that is essential for your horror role-playing, and that is the 3 stages of fear. So, today we're going to be discussing the 3 stages of fear, and yeah, it's going to be a wild ride. So to start off, what are the 3 stages of fear? Well, the first one is dread, the second is terror, and the third is horror. Now, what is the difference between dread, terror, and horror? In today's video, you're going to find out. Now, we're going to just jump right in by saying dread. Dread is that feeling in the back of your mind that something is out of place. It's a lingering sense that something isn't right. And it is often caused by some type of irrational or rational fear. Let me think of a good example. If you go through a town and you see a person with 3 eyes, but then you double take and they have 2 eyes, that is a bit of dread, because now you don't really know what to think of that person. It's this little feeling, this sense that something is wrong here, and that something bad is going to happen. Now, the second stage is terror, which is something bad happening. And that is a very powerful stage, the jump scare. But it only lasts for a very short amount of time. Jump scare is only one example. And the final stage is horror, which is the aftermath of the terror in all its gory glory. So, let's begin with dread. Now, why do you need to know this for your games? If you're a keeper in Call of Cthulhu, or really for any role-playing game that's horror-based, you want to know about the 3 stages of fear. Why? Because they're important to any story you create in building tension. When you create any type of horror role-playing game, when you play it, you want it to have a sense at the beginning that everything's okay, then it slowly builds into a climactic ending. Like this image before you. Looks almost normal, but then your mind starts to notice things and you feel a sense of dread. Now, if that very image right before you suddenly opened its mouth and tried to bite you, that would be terror. And the bleeding out of your, of the blood pouring out of your arm or whatever would be the lingering aftermath in all its gory glory. So, that looks like Nosferatu. Anyway, that is why you need this, is because it shows you a very simple way to build an arc. So for dread, it is pre-terror. It's what happens before the big scare, and it might last a very long time. Now, dread is probably the most powerful of the 3 stages of fear. It is powerful in small but collective doses, showing them little tiny things that set them on guard, showing your players that they have something to fear, when in reality it wouldn't really look like they would have much to fear. But they'll soon learn otherwise. By the end, you will have all of the dread building up until, finally, the jump scare, or the big, terrifying thing happens. And that is when all heck breaks loose. Now, terror is the event, the horrifying thing that happens. And a lot of stories, especially in Call of Cthulhu, start after terror, which is a little weird, but then they build back up to terror. So a lot of times you'll have scenarios that start with the horror, start with the aftermath, and then have the players investigate until they discover all the clues. Then they'll continue on as they discover the clues. The sense of dread builds, and then terror comes afterward. So it is also a cycle, which can be reused as many times as necessary. Now, for terror is very, very, very powerful in the moment. It's fleeting. It's a jump scare as the perfect example of it, even if it is not the only example of it. It's that 2 seconds when suddenly you realize, oh no, I'm doomed. It's all over. When that hideous face appears from under the bed and you're attacked by a demon or something, it's very powerful. But as soon as you face it, then you're on to the horror stage. So terror is still kind of uncertainty. It goes hand in hand with dread. And horror is almost its own entity. Now, for stimulating terror in your players, you need to have built up dread. So each of these 3 things goes together. The 3 stages of fear all go together. So as you're building dread, a sense of dread throughout the investigation phase of the campaign or the scenario you're playing, you keep going and going and going. That will make the terror payoff much greater than if you just started with the scary thing happening to them. When little odd things are happening throughout, like in like Silent Hill or something like that, little strange things until eventually all hell breaks loose. And that is when the game gets very interesting. Now, finally, horror. Horror is the aftermath. And horror, some have argued, is not actually that strong. I beg to disagree. I think horror is a very strong aspect and a very important aspect of the 3 stages of fear. When you're horrifying your players, you need them to feel disgusted. They need to understand that it's all filled with gore. It's disgusting. It's vile. It's aberrant. All different words Lovecraft would use often. You need to show them that now what are they going to do? Everything's hopeless. People have died. There's body parts flung everywhere. The creature has escaped, and you know that they're going to come back again, which goes right back into dread. The 3 stages of fear are very important. So for horror, I would definitely recommend amping up the gore factor, or at least the creep scare factor. You need to make them understand the consequences of their actions. That's what the horror phase is the consequences of what happened. So, 3 stages of fear. Dread, which builds into terror, which explodes and falls back down into horror as they realize the dire consequences of what the players have actually brought about, a lot of times willingly. That's what makes it even scarier. And one of the main things that you have to do as a keeper is not just show insane monsters, but you have to make good monsters. And I'm going to make a whole video about how to make a memorable monster. But for now, that is, in a nutshell, the 3 stages of fear. Very simple way to build a story arc around being scared. A build-up to the terror, which then falls back into the aftermath. It's a pretty simple concept. People have written many other things about fear. People have written the stages of getting over fear and stuff, but I felt the 3 stages of fear in the most simplified way would be the best thing for keepers to know. Obviously, you can research as much as you want. Now, if you are new here, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video helped you, at least a little bit, and I'm planning on doing a lot more keeper help videos such as these. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. Deathstroke 9, out. Use the 3 stages of fear.